Hello DayZ friends. I asked Martin from the development team the questions that you sent me. Thanks to everyone who sent them to me. I hope this will provide more transparency and understanding in the community. And enjoy the video. Have fun.
I think I touched upon that with the question about how much time I spend working, but knowledge is the biggest challenge. Knowledge is the biggest challenge of anything in life. It is what stands between you and what you want or need. It is the cause of your worries and anxiety. But it's also what makes life fun. If we knew everything, there would be absolutely nothing to do. Well, you see, Origins mod ran on top of Arma 2 combined operations, which were actually two games in one, the original Arma 2 and the standalone expansion Operation Arrowhead. So we had a ton of various vehicles to choose from without having to put any effort into creating them. The problem was that most of the vehicles were not used by anyone. There were really only a few vehicles that people found valuable and used, while the other vehicles rarely moved from their spawn locations. So now that we have to make all of the vehicles by ourselves from scratch, which takes a lot of effort by the way, we have to do it wisely to avoid encountering the same problem and thus wasting our time and resources. That means we need to concentrate on a much smaller number of vehicles, but much better vehicles that the players will actually find valuable and use. In 2 words, the engine. Unlike Arma 2, it is server authoritative, meaning that the game only happens on the server and the clients are just watching it. So, for example, if you press the forward button to walk forward, you first send a request to the server to move forward. The server validates that request and then either moves the character on your PC and everyone else's PCs, or it doesn't. This makes the vast majority of cheats redundant, which was by far the biggest problem in Origins mod. And of course, it gives us some graphical and performance improvements. As far as being inspired by other games, we try not to play games of similar genres at the moment because we don't want them to influence our ideas. I don't know. We haven't got any experience with modding Unreal Engine, and until we find out how it all works, I can't really give you a definite answer. But modding Unreal Engine games probably won't be as easy as it was in Arma because Arma is designed for modding, whereas Unreal Engine isn't. That's not to say that this functionality can't be added to Unreal Engine or simplified for the user to some extent, but yeah, at the moment, we just don't know. I guess time will tell. There isn't really much of a story to it. I made a map called Taviana for Arma 2, released it, but there wasn't really much to do on the map at the time, so I was thinking of creating a single player campaign for it, something along the lines of a revolution or a civil war. Then DayZ came along, and then Alex, our lead programmer, contacted me. He said that he's working on a mod and asked whether I could fix some bugs on the map, which there were many of. So I did, and one thing led to another. We decided to create some post-apocalyptic vehicles, and soon some of our friends and acquaintances joined, then some of our fans joined, and so on and so forth. Too much. You know, a lot of the time goes into understanding how the engine works and trying to figure out how we can make what we need to work with what the engine already provides. Because, for example, when it came to the proning and crouching that we recently tested in Phase 6, Unreal Engine doesn't actually support proning or even horizontal characters by default. And the code responsible for the character movement is, get this, 75,000 lines long. So you really don't want to spend an eternity understanding how it all works and then writing your own 75,000 lines just to add one small feature. A much better approach is to expand what the engine already has, but that isn't always easy as your functionality may need some things that conflict with the way the engine is designed to work. In our case, that conflict was horizontal collisions for horizontal characters. And we experienced a million game crashes and tried a million workarounds until we figured out the secret sauce. And the swimming functionality was the same, by the way. So when we're working on difficult things like that, I may even work for 12 hours a day, or more even. But usually I try to limit my time to less than that, because if you don't, you will begin to experience something known as burnout and you won't get anything done anyway. And besides that, you gotta get some exercise, you gotta clean the house, you gotta run some errands. So I try to limit my time to something reasonable. Yes, I own the rights to it, as every mod maker owns the rights to their mods. Anyone that creates a mod, a work of art, a photo, music, a program, etc. automatically owns the rights to it unless they state otherwise. And yes, the map will be taken down if someone ports or modifies it without my permission, etc. Almost every mod maker out there will do the same, so just don't do it. About 95% of the map is done. All we're missing is like one city, and we will do a flyover at some point when we're not so busy with testing. That's a really difficult question, because each city on Taviana has been designed to have its own character and kind of spirit. And no, it's not Martin. Well, actually, allow me to get sidetracked a little bit. Martin was actually the first city that I ever designed. You see, when I was a kid, like 5 to 6 years old, even before I had a computer, I used to make models of cities out of paper. I would cut out paper templates of buildings, I would paint them and make little windows inside them, and then bend the templates and glue the sides together to make a 3D model. And then I would stick that model onto an A4 paper and draw like the roads and all kinds of stuff just to make it look like a real city. I have no idea why I felt the need to do this, but I did, and I would make whole miniature cities like this. I would also put LEDs inside the buildings to make it look like the lights were turned on at night, and it all looked pretty cool. So I remember the design of my first paper city, and when I was creating Taviana, I recreated it there and I named the city after myself, Martin. But to get back to the question, I would say that Sabina is probably my favorite city because it contains the most unique buildings. It has underground tunnels and stuff. Well, fake underground. You can't actually make real underground areas in Arma 2. But yeah, overall, it's just a very unique city and it has a nice vibe. I always like walking around there, especially in the main square. No, unlike me, real Soviet people only drink alcoholic beer. But we can offer you non-alcoholic vodka, which can be obtained at any water well free of charge.